And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. The Springbok team has been announced. What a team it is. Very interesting, very, in many ways, predictable, but also very, very exciting. I think it's a very strong Springbok side. I don't think we get much stronger, to be perfectly honest. I think, if we were to have a World Cup final tomorrow, I think with the exception of like somebody like Kanya coming in, and obviously potentially some more about a fly half position, I don't think this team changes too much. And yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see. I think Ireland will look at this team and they'll be very wary of what the Springboks are trying to do. And the ironic thing is, and the funny thing is that I think it's so Springbok because we basically say that's our team, and within that, you can start to work out where we're trying to target, which areas we're focusing on, stuff like that. But the question is, can you adapt? Can you cope with it? So we're gonna put a poll out in the comments, and I'm just gonna ask you a very, very simple question: are you happy with the Springbok team? And if you're asking to see the team, this is how we will line up, people. And I'm excited. I'm very excited, I must say. As I don't think there are too many surprises. But the one surprise is a very big surprise and a very cool surprise. And that is Cheslin Kolbe at 15. So let's go through the team, shall we? Stephen Kitshoff, Malcolm Marx, Frans Maherbo. They do start. So we're sticking with Kitshoff and Marx in the starting lineup, despite the fact that Bongi Mbonambi is back and in the frame for selection. Malcolm Marx has become too good not to start at the end of the day. And whilst I do think there's not much difference between them when they're both playing well, I think at the moment, Malcolm Marx for 55 minutes is very much worth, his weight in gold. So, yeah, two front rows there, very good. I mean, Bongi Mbonambi coming up in the latter stages of the game is a privilege. I mean, I think Bongi Mbonambi starts on most teams in the world. The loose trio, the two locks, even Etzebeth, Lutiaga, absolutely no issues there. They've been very good this season. Sia Khaleesi, Peter Steph, Toy Jasper Visa. I'd say the only person in that starting pack who's probably under quite a lot of pressure is Peter Steph the Toy, because if we're being brutally honest, he hasn't been the Peter Steph the Toy that we know. It is a case of him sort of still trying to get back to full. I wouldn't even say full fitness, just full form. He's struggled a little bit, but they have backed him, and they're showing a lot of back into him, and they are keeping players off the bench who they are very important players. So I think that, for example, I've got no issue with Kwagga Smith coming off the bench, because he does bring in such a good impact, and it's a very important player to sort of close out. And I think if you're looking at it, let's be honest, you want to go out with a pretty big pack and, be physical up front, dominance collisions. When it comes towards the end of the game, things like turnovers, clutch penalties, breakdown work is incredibly important. And having somebody like Kwagga Smith, as well as Deon Free, by the way, off the bench is a big, big call. They are looking at the breakdown, and there's no doubt about that. Malcolm Marx starting. There's no Dwayne Vermeulen, for example. So Malcolm Marx, Stephen Kitshoff, two very good fetchers. Sia Khaleesi, very good at the breakdown. Not necessarily a traditional fetcher in the terms of getting over, jackling, winning penalties, but he does actually affect quite a few turnovers. Jaden Hedges, partners, Dave Willems, so we kind of knew this was coming, didn't we? But we still sort of wait to see what will happen from a goal-kicking perspective. Marcus Pimpy is pretty standard. David Lindy. And Jesse Kriel starts outside centre. And absolutely no issues with Kriel starting whatsoever. Your only other option would be to draft in Henk van Wyk, which you're not going to do, or look at Cornel Hendricks, which I don't think you're going to do yet either. And if we're being brutally honest, Kriel's actually not been bad when he's played for the Box this in the last two times when the Kanyam did get injured. He played a very big part in the try against Argentina, and defensively he's very sound. So but Kurt Owens and Cheslin Kolbe both in the side. That's exciting, isn't it? That's sort of X factor. Those are players who can you can open up defenses. Those are players who get defenders guessing and make them sort of worry a little bit. So to have them both in there is very interesting. Cheslin Kolbe, for example, does cover 10. He is the 10 cover, basically, him and Billy to a lesser extent. So what will be interesting is, because usually, especially when Pollard was playing, we kind of saw our playmaker at sort of 15 coming at first receiver quite a lot. It'll be very interesting to see how the sort of Willems to Kolbe axis will work in terms of whether Willemse will always start in the first receiver or whether you want to see Colby and him sort of moving in and around that field. So I think that the more that this team plays together, and if we do get this combination going, you start adding the Kanyam back in there, it'll be very interesting to sort of see how they operate, sort of, because I think they are quite fluid in terms of being able to take up different positions across the back line, different space, occupy different spaces maybe, and sort of attack on an attacking front. Adds a whole new dimension, which is exciting. And then off the bench, Bongi Manambi, Oxenchair, Vincent Cock in the front row, Franco Master, Dion Free, Kwaka Smith. It's a very good replacement. Basically, it's almost like a full pack coming on. You are bringing on 6 players. So the only players who I don't think will be replaced this weekend will probably Etzbeth, Lua Diaga. And then Factor Clerk, Billy LaRue. And Billy LaRue's been very good off the bench. Let's be honest, he has actually really worked off the bench. Brings a lot of rugby IQ, very good towards the closing stages when things start opening up a little bit. He identifies space very well, very experienced, very calm under pressure. And I think it's actually almost been a little bit of a renaissance of Billy LaRue off the bench. People have started to go and sit there saying, actually, we can see, the value he does bring. So we've got a poll running, and there's almost 74 votes. A lot of people saying they're very happy with the Springbok team. Only 10% saying they're not. And those who are not, I'm not sure what you're expecting to see. So yeah, let's go through some of the comments there. So Vic saying Colby at 15, Orange at 14 has made my day. The dream has finally come alive. Albert, well, you've seen the team now. Anyone that can replace Jesse Kriel? Who's gonna play? Who's gonna replace him? Throw a name out there. Henker van Wyk. I think Henker van Wyk is gonna be world class. I wouldn't start him this weekend. So who else is gonna be there? Samora saying this is the best team we could expect. I'm interested to see what would happen to Hendrik. Took a significant knock. I reckon we probably then go Colby at 10, Willemse at 12, LaRue at 15. That's what I think we'll do if, for example, Dale Lindy has to walk off. And that itself could be quite fun. I think Arno Borta and Moscott are lucky due to their knowledge of Irish rugby, similar to Jenkins. I don't know what the Moscott issue is. I don't know if it's a cultural issue. It's a weird thing. People are saying that there must be something behind the scenes that's keeping him out. And maybe there is. I do think that, for example, Jason Jenkins playing in Leinster will help a lot. He'll have even though he's only been there for a couple of weeks, he will have a bit of info on the Irish lads and stuff like that. And there are other players who played in Ireland and their input could be valuable, but you can't just be in a team because you know what's going on there. Foreskin saying Hawkins deserves start over Toy. Quintus saying would have loved to fly, especially on the bench, but nevertheless great team. Keenan says hope PSF plays like he did in the 2019 final, 100%. Larry saying can't wait for Henker to slot in that 13 jersey in the near future. Matthew says I'm super happy about the team, just a bit concerned about PSF Toy as I preferred Franco to start. Brian says short back 3, hoping crossfield kicks can be covered. It's an interesting sort of dynamic to that point. Crocker has put an 8 out of 10 performance consistently with only 20 minutes game time a week. Why not reward him with a start? Henker will play at 13 for the Boxers eventually. We know this. But the kid's barely started playing URCs. On the SAA squad, he'll play against Munster, he'll play against Bristol, maybe he'll play against Italy, maybe he'll get an opportunity against England. If there are injuries, for example, you've got Cornel Hendricks and Henker van Wyk. One of them will have to come in. So there's every chance he'll get an opportunity. But JC Kriel is the right decision for this weekend. And if you're not going to back that, and if you don't think it's true, go back and watch it a little bit more. He's actually not been that bad. It's almost become like a Harry Maguire thing where it's like the cool thing to do is to hate him. And as I said, that after Pimpy, he scored the most amount of tries on this team, man. That he scored like 60 international points. He's got like 12 to 13 international tries. And was when Lekanya came in, we weren't worrying about 13. Jesse Kriel was very comfortable at 13. Lekanya come in, been world class, 100%, but he had to be world class to push Jesse Kriel out 13 position because JC was playing that well. So I think people are quite fickle when it comes to JC Kriel because we forget how good he was not so long ago either. So just what I was saying, who's better under the high ball, Colby or Orenser? I don't know. And they're pretty good. As I said, the height is an issue, but they're both very athletic. I'll tell you something. They're both very much players. That's something I'm really enjoying about Kirtley. Is he's got very little self-preservation. He's very happy to get in the air, and whatever happens, happens. So he's got no issue getting into there and competing. Ricardo says, would have went for a 5-3 split with Levi covering a 10. Jesse still playing on his experience and not form. Guys, there's nobody else at the moment. Evan saying, I would have had Kwacha on the bench always for late speak an impact, 100%. Amanda saying, not sure about Billy LaRue in the team. Yeah, Billy LaRue has been absolutely fine. We've got no issue there. Rian saying, Jesse Kriel hated weird. He's one of the best defensive 13s we have, 100%. And the Irish centers are proper, guys. So he's gonna need to earn his stripes this weekend. But yeah, a lot of people saying that PSF Toy owes us a big performance. I think he does. I think he probably knows that. And hopefully, he has had a full month now where he can get back to sort of full fitness. It's always frustrating, isn't it? Because you don't want players to be playing into form in a Springbok shirt, but you've got a former World Player of the Year, and not a World Player of the Year who was good in like 2016, like he won the 2019 World Player of the Year. We didn't have a 2021 season, so we just need to get him back to that sort of phase. And with the World Cup a year out, if 2 games this end of year tour unlocks PSF the toy, and we've got him and Franco Master operating at their best, happy days. If not, for example, then you have to sit there, start making big decisions about PSF about whether he will be making the World Cup 23, and whether we do need to keep persisting. Ricardo saying Delini, Henko, or Hartzenberg would have been exciting. I mean, Hartzenberg's never even played a single minute of rugby at outside centre at this level, so he's definitely not going to play with the box. Yo saying looks good. Don't start David Turner against Ireland and France, maybe Italy, 100%. Don't is pitching serious there, but I understand at the same time he'll get his chance though, 100%. Evan Rose will play for the Springboks, I reckon, this tour. But can completely understand why he's not involved this weekend. I think the fact that they've got Deon Fourie on the bench is very clearly showing that they are looking for their breakdown in the last sort of 20 minutes. They really want to target the breakdown. And Deon Fourier's come on for the Springboks, and I think that he's shown that all of a sudden he is very much in the mix. I think he's actually booked his plane, to be honest. I think he's booked his ticket to France. Deon Fourie. I think he has been so good off the bench. He's got a very good rugby IQ. And I think he's all of a sudden actually going to very much be in the mold there. But Evan says, I like the lineup, but some players have been a bit stale of late, but this is the perfect chance to test who needs to be removed for French game. Alex says, if we debate 13, obviously Henko an option, Mons, Portkita and Preston Sunday. Tennis said, I would try LaRue on for Delendi, De Klerk 9, LaRue 10, Willems at 12, Kriel 13, 11 Pimpy, 14 Iris at Colby. I reckon you'll just see Colby. You'll see Willems at 12 and Colby at 10 and LaRue at fullback. I reckon before you'll see that. Shell saying, Monster deserved to start for me. Glad to see Mark's finally starting despite Bongi being back. There's just lots of comments here going through. So, just going to do something good. Sean says, up here, Steve, there will be issues with the CS selection of Bulls. I like coach staff, but they're too ignorant, selfish to come to their senses to select him. Yeah, but I mean, just because you work in a certain environment doesn't mean that. I mean, for example, Apple Fassi, apparently, rumor has it there are issues there with him and the Springbok management with some of the things that he was doing in the Springbok camp. He's gone back to the Sharks, starts every single week. So some people are absolutely fine in certain environments and maybe don't fit a culture, a different environment. I'm just saying though, I can't confirm whether it's true or not. I'm not in the environment, but there has been rumors that maybe there is a bit of an issue there. So yeah. Sean saying, who comes if there's an injury to Damon Delendi or Kriel? I think Williams will then have to slot into whichever center position comes available. Davey saying, now would be the time to bleed in the likes of Henko and Ruiz at all, not all at once, like second Wales test, but slowly and early before the World Cup. Well, I wouldn't say now as in like playing against the world number ones on Saturday. Maybe now end of year, potentially towards the end of the tour, but we've got to play world number one, we've got to play world number 2. Let's get through those games. If you go and win those 2 games, I mean, even if you start a very different team in Italy and lose, I wouldn't give a shit. If you go and beat Ireland and France, as far as I'm concerned, this tour is a success. I genuinely do think so. I mean, genuinely, even if we lost to Italy, I would say that beating Ireland, beating France, I would count this tour as a success. Some people will disagree, but I think those 2 teams are teams that are looking good to potentially like compete for the World Cup. You go and beat them, and mentally you say, right, we've beaten every team we played against this year. out of the top. And England's going to be a tough one because it's not going to be our main team, but we know we can beat England. We should have beaten them last year. But if you can sit there at the end of the year saying we beat New Zealand, we beat France, we beat Ireland, we beat Australia, we beat Wales, and we beat Argentina, I think we're going into the World Cup going hundreds. I think the amount of confidence we get from those sort of victories will be huge. Clint says, big talent pool to choose from. As long as we have the best group possible to play the exact game plan with just enough impetus for individual brilliance, then everyone is happy. Saeed saying, coaching staff say Willemse is a 10 with Pollard back in the side, and if his back three plays well, you rate Willemse would end up on the bench again. At least these are good headaches to have. I don't see Willemse back on the bench. To be honest, I think he'd go back to fullback if Pollard comes back into the 10 position, and you'll just probably shift Colby back to 14. Willemse, for me, has probably been in the top 5 best players for us this season. And I don't see how he doesn't make it to make starting 15 anymore. Who do you think is kicking for poles? Cheslin, I think Cheslin or Jaden probably, potentially, have both been practicing their kicking. I don't know if they're going to back Damien Willemse. It's going to be an interesting moment in the first few minutes on Saturday when we get our first opportunity. Not necessarily first few minutes, but in the early stages when we get that first opportunity to kick a goal. Are they going to go Damien Willemse and see? Or are they going to immediately go to a Jane Hemsworth, Cheslin Colgan, and just say to Damon, you don't even have to worry. You just focus on you. Marlon saying, good solid team, especially in the way we want to play. Solid pack of forwards with a backline that can offer attacking variation and players who can beat defenders one-on-one. Michelle is saying this is a very safe block team. I think it is safe, but I think a lot of that is we've been molding ourselves and creating ourselves to getting into the best side. So it's a side that we know is going to come, and that's because we kind of know our best 23. Just rock up say JD Quinn says, in a crucial test against Wales they experimented, so why not use these tests to experiment? We know what all of these guys can do. Boo. Playing against Wales at Bloemfontein, so you're at home, by the way, against Wales, who are like 6th or 7th in the world, is a little bit different to playing against Ireland, the number 1 test nation in the world, at the Aviva Stadium, and then playing France, the number 2 nation in the world, at Stade de France. Like, in theory, we've got the 2 toughest games you could possibly have in World Rugby right now this weekend. Very much, and we're a year out from the World Cup, very much not the time for me to go and sit there saying, okay, cool, now we can experiment. I mean, if you're saying that the Welsh test was an important test, these are far, far more crucial than the Welsh second test, where we always had a third test to be able to come back and win, which we did. There's no chance for redemption. You lose to Ireland, you lost to Ireland. Ireland go into the World Cup knowing they can beat you. You lose to France, France go into the World Cup knowing they can beat you. You go and beat both of them, and that basically says to us, for example, if you go and beat Ireland, France, and England, you go into the World Cup knowing, not thinking, knowing, because you've done it recently, that you can beat anybody in the top 6. You go into that World Cup saying, any team that comes up, we know we can beat them. Whether they will or not is not important, but you know you can, and you have recently, within the last 12 months, beaten every single top 6 side. So these tests are far more important to me than that second Welsh test. Do you give us a better chance to beat Ireland or France? I think Ireland will be the tougher test. First of all, we've got a very good record against France. Not that I'm saying it's going to be easy, but I think that France have got a lot of injuries, especially in the front row. And I think that I think our pack will be too strong for France. And that's the biggest thing. I think France's backline is disgustingly good. But their forward pack's very underrated. And I think that's what's been so good about them this year, is the fact that they've suddenly got this forward pack that can give their backline space to really be open. And I think that with the injuries they've got, I think they might struggle from a fronting up perspective. So I do think that Ireland's pack's better, or will be better than what France put out. So in many ways, I think that this weekend will be the toughest test of the tour. I mean, it is. I mean, they're the number 1 team in the world, so it is the toughest test. And I do think that for me right now, I'm feeling more confident for the French test than I am for the Irish test. These are friendlies. Remember, there's no such thing as a friendly in international rugby, guys. I think that's if you genuinely think that this is a friendly, Come on. Yes, it's not a series in inverted commas. Is there world ranking points up for grabs? Yes. Therefore, it's not a friendly. Like these tours have been going on for years and years and years. When have we ever sat there thinking, oh, it's just a friendly, it doesn't matter. It's just a time to experiment. We statistically, by the way, I did this last year. We statistically do not experiment on the end of year tour. There's the time where teams will not experiment. When you experiment is your incoming tour in the mid-year. When you've got teams coming to your backyard in your environment, you've got 3 tests. That is where all teams experiment. They do not experiment on the end of year tour because you're going overseas to some of the toughest places. You're playing in different countries every single week. It's an incredibly difficult environment. It's very cold, very wet. It's very different conditions to what you were used to. It's some of the toughest tests we've got tend to be the end of year tour. It's why going like 4 for 4 or 3 for 3 is almost unheard of. Very few teams actually go to the end of year tour and win all 3 games or all 4 games. Even New Zealand have struggled with that in recent times. You know, we saw Ireland beating them back when it was like 2018 or 17 or what, when they won, coming on the end of year tour. It's very difficult, these tests. So yeah, contender saying, I hope they could try 6 Fourie, 7 Khaleesi, 8 Smith. Second half, Quacker at 8 is where Quacker's going to catch the Irish by surprise. Very good, especially second half as the game opens up. Yeah, no third line option in those 3 though. Mr. Mayor Kiwi says the French player highly intelligent brand of rugby with Intermac and DuPont. Our defense will have to be on Rugby World Cup 19 level. If you want to beat them, I hope that will not be missed too much. Well, come with the owl, come with the man. Jess Kriel under a lot of pressure, so let's see what he does this weekend. Just saying, I think Ireland and France will give us good bashing, which in the run for the next year will be a good thing, to be honest, 100%. Joan says, love this team. We have SAA team to experiment with the new players like Henko and then to play the Springbok game plan. And from those 2 games, determine who stays on for the final 2 internationals. I like that. Joan says, it might not be a popular opinion, but I'd have a 6-2 split with Jenkins, Buerta, Kotsia, Quacker Smith as replacement. Start with Khaleesi, Mossad, and Visa. I do think that Jason Jenkins could find himself in a bomb squad. You know, when you think about the bomb squad back in 2019, we had 2 locks and a flag. I don't see why we couldn't have Jason Jenkins, Franco Moss, and Quacker Smith, or Franco Moss to start, have Jason Jenkins, Peter Stephator, and Quacker Smith. Would be very interesting to see exactly how that kind of would work. Going through a couple of comments here. Leon said, I think Damien deserves to be selected regularly in a single position. In SA, we hurt so many players because they are so good they can play everywhere. We want Pina, Hurkhardt, France Day, and Pat Lambie. Yeah, look, I think David Willemse was never supposed to play fly half this year until we've had our fly half crisis. So I think that I think the plan was for him to just play at fullback, to be honest. Although I still would like to see him at inside centre. But I think the thing with Damien Willemse, I think he's matured so much over the last few years that he's actually now very comfortable playing anywhere. Which I think is exactly what they were trying to do. Maybe it meant that he didn't progress as quickly as he might have could have, or maybe they wanted him to. But I think that in the long run, I think he's now become a player who can, as he's been play at 10, as 12, and 15. And that's kind of what they wanted. So maybe it was frustrating a couple of years for us because we never saw the best Damien Willemse, but we're now seeing the best Damien Willemse, and he's 24 years old. So we could see the best Damien Willemse for the next 10 years across several positions. Larry says, if Damien happens to play exceptionally good but kicks poorly a goal, what would our options be? You find somebody else that can goal kick. You look at a scrum half and you say, right, or you have to pick a fly half, or you have to pick a centre, you have to find someone who's a good goal kicker and you have to try and put him into the team. When that means that you go and say, Martin, what can you reckon you can play full back, for example? Or Johan Goosen goes and plays at full back, for example. You know, you'd have to. If Willemse plays is undroppable but can't kick for goal, you got to find another goal kicker at the end of the day. Or you go and find a fly who can kick for goal, put Willemse back at 15. Yeah. I think that yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Why did they not give Henko practice time with the box? Well, they will train together a bit. Actually, I'm not. It's Hector van Beek. Nobody even. I mean, 95% of people who are asking Hector van Beek to be in the Springbok team this weekend didn't even know he was 2 months ago. So let the kid. The same thing I said to Sasha Ngomazulu. Yeah, I rate him. Yes, I think he's going to be at least a 50 cap Bok, if not 100 if he stays fit. But he's young and he's new, and let's just ease him into it. Let's not just throw them into the deep end. If they try and go, okay, cool, they were good enough. But says if Hego starts and puts in a performance against Italy, would you start him against England? I don't see why not, but I don't think he will against Italy. Welcome, Keenan, the latest member to the Fair Sports Members Club. I appreciate it. If you'd like to become a member, check out the link in the description. Yeah, we really appreciate all our members that help continue keeping this channel going. It is highly appreciated. Cutler saying, how are 13% of people not happy with this team? It's too good. There's no way of pleasing you otherwise. Yeah, I must admit, I tend to agree. I think if you don't like this team, I'm very confused to what you would like to change. I'm actually going to end that poll. 239 votes, 87% of people have said they're happy. The other 13%, not entirely sure who you'd like to select. Because I personally think maybe Mostert in for Peter Steph the toy, and obviously the Kanya I'm in for Jess Kriel if he's fit, and this team could be the best team we could actually put out. So yeah. Daniel says, if we lose, what do you think will be the reason? Where have Ireland got the upper hand? I think what's been so impressive to me about Ireland is they're very dynamic. You know, they're not necessarily characterized by one thing. I think that they've brought so many. I think they've added strings to their bow. So I do think that their set piece is very good. I think that I think that they're very good at keeping the ball alive. And their offload game, for example. So I think what that does is that creates a lot of space down on the wider channels. So they're very good at sucking in defenders. I think probably local knowledge. I think their ability to play in various conditions will probably help them a lot. Yeah, David Jonas says, you think you will use Jason and the bomb squad against Italy or no? I don't know actually. But we have to wait until we see. Zero says Dave Vincer on fly off and no France staying kicking the kicks might be a bit rough. If Damien gets injured this game, who will play 10 against France? Probably Moni Liebach. If not, maybe Jason Colby, but I'll be surprised if they would have started chasing at 10. Maybe. Are the Japanese based players and Premiership players available for England game? The Japanese players are. The French and UK players are not. My cousin said the game for some experimentation is Italy, in my view. Obviously, interesting could force some change, but they'd want to build momentum ahead of England game. Yeah, well, we've got Ireland in an SAA game, France in an SAA game, and then Italy. So get through these two games, and then we'll see. Then we can see what we need to do. Obviously, as I said, we will be losing a couple of players who won't be involved in that final test. But I don't want to even see the word experimentation. I don't want to see the word of building depth. I don't want to see any of that chat until after the French game. Once we played France, then we can talk about cool. What else are we going to get from the tour? But the first thing and the most important thing for me in this tour is to go out and get 2 wins. Once we've got those 2 wins, then sweet. Then we'll get there when we get there. As Keelan says, we have 2 SAA games to experiment and Italy, but even Italy are not a walkover. Did you say Master PSF the toy? I very much did. Master's been far better than this season. If we're being brutally honest. Connor says they've made gains on the lineout and they're only more. You can thank Paul O'Connell for that. Yeah, as I said, I think the Irish set piece is quite good. We need our set piece to be good, to be honest. I know that everybody's like, oh, we just go ahead and win score penalties and kick the points. That's Test match rugby. If we can do that very well this weekend, I'll be a very, very chuffed Springbok fan. What do you think explains the constant back of PSF Troy? Probably that World Player of the Year award he's got and how important he is when he's playing well. Good experience for Jaden. Needs to get decision making a bit better. Anyone else agree? If the Bulls can beat Ireland, surely the Box can play if they play their heart out. When the Bulls beat Ireland, don't come with your Leinster stuff. This is a little bit different. Can't say. I feel Jaden Henderson has been the most informed scrummer for the amount of game time played compared to others. He managed to pack well with Willemse. So is Ruis and Van Staden going to play the Italy and England game? So Van Staden, I actually don't think he's actually gone over yet, just yet. So him and Spur and Corsi are they are still waiting on scans. We might actually get an update in the next day or two. We'll actually get updates today, to be honest. I'm not obviously not in the press conference currently. But yeah, they are waiting on injury stuff, I get. So if they are all clear, then they'll come up. But at this stage, for the start, not really in the selection mold. I think Rose will start for the SAA next weekend, or next week Thursday, and then I think we might see him for Italy because we're not going to have a Jasper visa for England, so we might see Evan Rose for England, which will be really, really cool. John, I'm happy with this team. I just can't help but not understand why so many players overseas and local can be in the best form but won't be selected because of what's basically VIP holders, but I'm happy. Riyad says we got to win all games. Chesney 15. Aish, I think Chesney 15. Come on, get in. It is at 7:30, by the way, people. So the game is at 7:30. We will be live throughout the day, though, people. We've got like some of the most insane coverage you could ever think about this weekend. It's incredibly exciting. We will be live for, and even if we're not going to be live, we'll have live trackers and stuff like that. So your number one place to consume the international season that's coming thing has to be here on Forever Sports. And if you haven't subscribed, what is wrong with you? Like, were you dropped as a child? Subscribe right now, because let's try and see if we can get up to 21,000 subscribers this weekend. 22 subscribers. And let's try and see if we can get to 25,000 subscribers by the end of the Alternation series. Imagine if, like last year, we celebrated 10,000 before Christmas. That was like our massive breakthrough. So if a year later we celebrate 25,000 and we found 15,000 a year, that'll be huge. And then next year we push for 50,000 after the Rugby World Cup. I mean, how cool would that be? So in terms of this weekend, in terms of some of the fiction stuff like that, we've got Italy versus Samoa, which will probably be a match tracker. We've got Scotland versus Fiji. I will be live for that. We've got Wales versus New Zealand. We will be live for that as well. Obviously, Ireland versus South Africa is our big one this weekend, and I'll be there with you guys. We'll also obviously be live for France versus Australia. And then we've got England versus Argentina on Sunday. We're going to be live for all of these games, if not as a watch along, as a match tracker. One match tracker scheduled. The rest of them will all be watch alongs. Then next weekend it's going to be even better because we're going to have Australia versus Italy. We've got England versus Japan. We've got Wales versus Argentina. France versus South Africa. Scotland versus New Zealand on the Sunday. The rugby games are so cool this tour. Next year we've got 10 o'clock kickoff against France, which I actually think is going to be a lot of fun. It means you can start drinking at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon and be well on your way to by the time we get the block kickoff. So yeah, but as I said, the best thing to do is to subscribe here. And also, if you're looking at how to watch these games, we will obviously be doing how to watch videos later on this week. But if you go check the description right now, go and download ExpressVPN because you can subscribe to a free trial for Amazon Prime, for example. It's a 7-day trial. So if you subscribe on Saturday, you'll be able to watch Ireland as well as the France game, as well as all these other games, by the way, including Wales versus Australia, New Zealand versus Wales, France versus Australia, Scotland versus Fiji, all these games, England versus Argentina. So Sunday you'll be able to watch that if you subscribe on the free trial, as well as all those games next weekend. But Amazon Prime is like $6. So download ExpressVPN, get Amazon Prime, you connect to an Iron server, and you can watch the entire Alternation series for like $5. Like, it's insanely good, well priced. So don't sit there and try and find your illegal bootstrap streams which just don't work and like tank your things. Go and get yourself sorted. And then there can be no worry about you missing any of the action. So the press conference with Jacques Nienaber will be up within the next hour. We'll also have some clips on Forever Rugby. So go and check out Forever Rugby as well. We're going to have a lot of stuff going up there. So yeah, in terms of press conference, we've got Jacques coming up today. Tomorrow we will have Rassi Erasmus up with a player, and we'll also have 2 players up on Thursday. Friday will be the captain's press conference. That will be Zwandile Stick and Siamtanda Khaleesi. We'll then obviously be live on Saturday. We're also potentially going to be live for some cricket on Thursday. So they've got taking on Pakistan. Very important match there for the project. In fact, no, we're playing Netherlands. We're playing Pakistan? Which one are we playing? I'm pretty sure it's Pakistan on Thursday. Now I've just like lost my... I thought it's Pakistan first. Or is it the Netherlands? Where are we at? Yeah, it's Pakistan on Thursday. And Netherlands on Sunday. Yeah, so we'll hopefully be live on that as well, which is going to be very cool. Lots and lots of stuff coming up this week. So yeah, make sure you go and subscribe. turn your notifications on as well, so you get all the any big news, for example, any major injury news, all that kind of thing. We will obviously come live. We'll also be live chatting about the squad and sort of dissecting it a bit more, looking at the Irish squad and stuff like that on Thursday throughout the week as well. So make sure you come and join us for then. Please do, smash like on the way out. We'll see you guys all tomorrow. We'll be live. Thank you very much for jumping in. I've really enjoyed this discussion. And we will see you. We'll reconvene tomorrow at 1 o'clock for our daily news show, shall we? Until then, keep well, keep safe.